to Anglia Ruskin University. My name is Roderick Watkins, I'm Vice-Chancellor, and to anybody visiting us for the first time in particular, you're very welcome here. I hope very much that you will have a great evening with us and be motivated to come back. So I'm delighted to see such a great turnout this evening. So in every university, inaugural lectures are always a really happy and important occasion, a chance for us to celebrate the success and the remarkable contribution to the creation of knowledge and the sharing of knowledge by some of our most excellent academics recently appointed or promoted to professor. And in the case of Silvia this evening, these are academics who have made a really, really deeply valued, long-standing contribution to us and to our university. So it's a particular pleasure this evening for me to be here for Silvia's inaugural and to welcome you. Sylvia has kindly agreed to take questions at the end. Have you, yes, she hasn't yet decided, that was unwise. So please do think up some questions at the end, and then after the questions and answers, I do hope you will stay for a reception outside in the foyer. All that remains for me to do now is to invite Professor Laurie Dean, Pro-Vice-Chancellor and Dean of the Faculty. Did I call you Laurie Dean?
You did.
Professor Laurie Butler.
You could have started out.
Once our names become our job title, you know something's gone wrong. Professor Laurie Butler, Pro-Vice-Chancellor and Dean of the Faculty of Science and Engineering, to properly introduce this evening's speaker. Please welcome Laurie.
Good evening. Really good to see so many of you here, and obviously for guests that are joining online as well, especially warm welcome. So, thank you, Vice-Chancellor. It gives me absolute pleasure to introduce the speaker for tonight's inaugural lecture. So, Professor Silvia Cirstea is a Professor of Computational Modelling and Artificial Intelligence at Anglia Ruskin University, where she's also a Deputy Head in the School of Computing and Information Science. Silvia completed a BSc and MSc in mathematics at the University of Bucharest before completing a PhD in imaging technologies at De Montfort University. During that time, she was also a visiting scholar at Princeton University. Now, before joining ARU, Silvia worked as a research scientist at the Rutherford Appleton Laboratory on the theoretical modelling of radio wave propagation, and then at the MRC's Institute of Hearing Research on acoustic modelling and sound synthesis. She has over 20 years of research experience in mathematical and software modelling for real-world applications in imaging, acoustics, engineering and health sciences. She's also received funding from Innovate UK, the EU, the UK Radio Communications Agency, and also from British industry. And her research has been cited in public health policy documents, both here in the UK and also in the US. Now, in 2025, Silvia was part of a team that won the Vice-Chancellor's Award for Outstanding Education. And just to give you a sort of taste of what Silvia's done over the last 15 years or so at ARU. So Silvia's played a key role in the renewal of the computing curriculum within the school, and also the development of new courses in artificial intelligence and data science with partners including Intel, ARM, Amazon, Cambridge University Press and Assessment, and also AstraZeneca. And then last week, to bring you right up to date with Silvia's career, she was appointed as the Research Centre Director for the newly established Advanced Computing Research Centre at ARU. So we're delighted to have Silvia on board for that, and that is going to be a really exciting development for both the faculty and for the wider university. So in her talk this evening, Silvia will present her research journey in computational modelling for human echolocation, machine audition, and health data mining through the lens of inverse problems, where AI plays a crucial role to identify patterns in complex, noisy data. Similarly to how, when looking in a mirror, we try to infer the position of objects whose reflections we see, in this approach, Silvia starts with an observed result, the reflection, and works backwards to determine what caused it. I must admit, Silvia, I'm looking forward to seeing an example or two of that, just to crystallise that in my head, but I look forward to that. She will show that how the combination of inverse problems and artificial intelligence can provide valuable insights into complex interdisciplinary research questions such as autonomous navigation using sound or the prediction and risk stratification of disease. So, with a talk titled "We See in a Mirror from Inverse Problems to AI," it gives me absolute great pleasure to introduce Professor Silvia Cirstea.
Thank you very much, Roderick and Laurie, for such a warm introduction, and everyone for joining me tonight for this inaugural lecture, which I've titled "We See in a Mirror from Inverse Problems to AI." As an overview, I will start by saying a few words about myself. I promise they will just be a few. And then I will go through 4 case studies of inverse problems in computer vision, human and machine echolocation, and in data twins and AI models for disease prediction. So, a few words about myself. I was born in Bucharest, and I grew up in a family that valued education above many things. And education has come very easy to me. In school, I proudly enjoyed all the subjects. I really loved humanities and I loved sciences. And growing up, through the years from school to high school to university, I thought it was really unfair that you had to drop subjects and focus on fewer and fewer and really not learn all those other interesting things. So to put it like this, to choose is to lose. And I decided to cut my losses, really, and study mathematics at university because I thought that was the science that offered the language, the method, and the structure to understand and explore all the others. And not just sciences, humanities as well. So this sort of vision and approach has guided me as a mathematics student at the University of Bucharest, later on as a young lecturer at the Polytechnic University of Bucharest, and when I came to England to do my PhD at De Montfort in Leicester, at Princeton as a visiting scholar, and when I started to work as a research scientist in radio communications at first at Rutherford Appleton Laboratory near Oxford, and then at the MRC's Institute of Hearing Research in Nottingham. Also, I brought all of this interdisciplinarity with me when I joined ARU almost 20 years ago as a lecturer, and then moving on through the academic ranks. So with this approach that is interdisciplinary in nature, I have built a specialism in computational modeling, linking mathematical equations with problems from engineering, from physics, from health sciences, working from first principles to optimized solutions, and often with problems in signal processing and data analysis that lend themselves to what we term very broadly AI methods. Now, with the recent advances, AI has entered the attention of the public. It has entered the Oxford Dictionary of the English Language, and it brought to the fore old questions about knowledge, about understanding, about how we learn, and also new ones about the ethical and societal implications of having machines that mimic and emulate even our learning, and by consequence our abilities. Having worked with problems of finding patterns in data and in signals, I find these questions quite important, and that's why I'd like to preface my talk today with a motto from St. Paul's first epistle to the Corinthians, which says, it is about the nature of knowledge and the nature of learning, and it says, now we see in a mirror, in a riddle, but later we shall see face to face. Now I know in part, but later I shall know as I am known. Now, St. Paul takes the long view here. I'm going to focus on the now part, on the nunc, which is now we see in a mirror, in a riddle, now I know in part, and if you indulge my Latin for a bit, it is relevant, I'll explain. Videmus nunc per speculum in enigmate, nunc cognosco ex parte. So what do we have here? So since the Pauline text says our knowledge is in a mirror, that is to say it is indirect. Per speculum, it is in a riddle, in enigmate, very beautiful, in enigmate. That is to say, confounded by many other factors, so entangled with things that we perhaps don't really have a good hold of, and in part, ex parte, partial or incomplete. And here's why I've left the Latin text, because it tells us a little bit more than the translation. Ex parte does not mean just partial and incomplete. It also means from a side, from an angle, from a perspective. And we recognize that this is not just fitting with the mirror metaphor, it's also fitting with the way we learn and with how our perspective is often quite from the side, ex parte. Right, the second reason I was keen on the Latin text is because the Latin word for mirror, speculum, gave in English and in other modern languages the verb to speculate, which, according to Merriam-Webster, means to meditate on or ponder a subject, to reflect. Well, tonight, thank you so much for joining me. I would like to reflect on and show you my reflection on some of the riddles of the enigmata I have wrestled with over the years. And the first such riddle is one of computer vision, and it was part of my PhD at De Montfort. I worked with a so-called 3D integral imaging system. This was a camera system that produces three-dimensional images with full parallax in real light. It looks very much like a hologram, but it is a fully optical system that uses micro and macro lenses as layers. Well, and the 3D images are recorded in 2D, and they look something like that horseman on the screen. Now, my problem in the PhD was to extract the depth of the objects in such a planar recording, and that has relevance if you want to combine computer-generated images with real recordings and so on. Now, what I did was to recognize that this is a typical inverse problem, a problem where we are given the effect, which is the image, and we try to find the cause that produced it, which is the three-dimensional composition of the imaged scene. So something like that. I like this little schematic because it takes much of the noise and gives us a structure to think about it. Now, to understand what inverse problems entail, let me take another example which has nothing to do with my PhD, but I think it's easier to follow. So let's look at this this image, what we see in the distance is a statue of the Roman god Mars, and one inverse problem that we can ask, presented on this image, is how tall is Mars, or how far it is. They are kind of equivalent. So how tall is Mars? I'm happy to take some guesses.
2.5 meters?
2.5 meters, that's a good one. Anyone else?
2 meters and 9 centimeters.
Excellent, excellent.
That's my height, so that's what's right.
Yeah, and you're both right, and actually no one is right, because we cannot tell. So the nature of the problem is that a distant object that is fairly big and tall would give us exactly the same image as one that is smaller and closer to the point of view, to the camera. And as it happens with this one, we are dealing here with a very clever architect who creates this impression of depth, but actually this Mars is very little. It's the size of a doll, really, and it's not very far from the camera by consequence. So I've given this example to highlight that the same effect can be given by radically different causes. And this is the fundamental issue with inverse problems. Most of them are like this. They do not have a unique solution, and moreover, these solutions are quite unstable. We don't have now time to insist and exemplify this. Well, the point is, inverse problems are ill-posed. They don't look like this. They actually look like this. There are many candidate viable causes that can produce the same effect. And these causes actually can be quite radically different from each other. So what do we do then? I had a PhD to complete. And the more general idea here is to inject in the solution some additional information that we have from the physics of the problem. And what sort of other information? Well, that can be helped if we first solve what is called the direct or the forward problem. Namely, if we identify the pathway by which a cause, no, not necessarily the one we are after, a cause from a viable cause leads to our effect. So if we're able to do that, we know a bit more about what parameters are at play there, and if we inject information about those in the inverse problem, we are hopefully able to land on an optimal solution for our case. And this is what I did in my PhD. I solved the direct problem, which in this case is the integral image formation and recording, and then with this in mind, imposed some additional constraints about the solution of the inverse problem in terms of minimal discrepancy with what the direct model gives, positivity boundedness, things that are quite natural in problems of optimization and solution search, and the general scheme for AI. With this, the regularized solution looked like an intensity map. This is the Z direction. We are looking at the object from here. This object is a cuboid, and that's a section, a transversal section through the cuboid. Once I had the intensity map, I used self-organizing neural networks to build the contour of that object, which looked something like that. So that's the visible side of the cube reconstructed with a self-organizing neural network. Right, after my PhD, I went on to work in radio communication modeling at Rutherford Appleton Laboratory. very interesting topics. One of them was quite revolutionary at the time. It was called fixed wireless networks. It was really the system of the future. We now have it everywhere. It is called Wi-Fi. After RAL, I worked at MRC in hearing research, looking at modeling of hearing aids, like cochlear implants, and psychoacoustic experimentation. I've learned a lot working in these two places, and one idea which had some form of commonality between them sort of fascinated me, and it goes like this. Assume that we have a transmitter and a receiver and a wave that we send from one to the other. The space between the transmitter and the receiver will change that wave in a manner that is specific to it, so that the wave that we receive not just contains the information that we meant in the first place to transmit, it also contains a fingerprint, if we want, of the space it has traveled. And this stands for radio waves. It also stands for mechanical waves, like acoustic waves. And in the case of sound, reverberations convey indirect information about the surrounding space, and the geometry of sound propagation tells us that we quite literally hear in a mirror, in the mirror of objects in the surrounding space, because the sound wave would have bounced on those. Now, this reverberation, or the early one is really relevant, arrives very soon after the main sound in a time interval that is typically 15 to 40 milliseconds, depending on how wide, how big the space is. And this is the basis for echolocation. Echolocation being that ability to use sound to perceive and to navigate through space. And we recognize that echolocation is an inverse problem by nature. We have the effect, which is the reverberation pattern, and we want to find the cause that produced it, namely the composition of the space of which the sound had bounced before it arrived to our ears or to our microphones. And this is very relevant for human echolocation, especially in the visually impaired. Now, coming back a little to my professional trajectory, by this time I had joined Anglia Ruskin, or how it was called then, Anglia Polytechnic, and I was very fortunate to meet Shahina in a faculty committee, and we started to talk about this idea of how the space has an imprint in acoustic waves, and how this is anecdotally very useful to the visually impaired. Yeah, we started to talk about research. I don't remember if we mentioned Al Pacino's blind character from Scent of a Woman, but anyway, his metaphor of a blind person's sharper radar than the Nautilus is a very fitting one for the research questions that we were going to ask. At that time, Shahina was forming the Vision and Eye Research Unit, now called the Vision and Eye Research Institute, and acoustic cues for the visually impaired became one of the research themes of the unit, and Veru recruited Andrew Kolarik as a research fellow to work on this topic, and I think we've made a great team, and that team has grown over the years with external partners from Cambridge University and from India and from Italy. I'll take you through 2 or 3 results that are more striking, I think. One of them is about discrimination of auditory distance and whether which of the auditory cues is more prevalent depending on distance. Is it level, which is the intensity of sound, essentially the loudness, or is it reverberation? And we found quite interestingly that while level is the main cue in the near field, in the region of 1 meter to say 5 meter, as we go further towards 5 meter and beyond, reverberation takes over as a main conveyor of auditory distance. Then we ask other questions around perception of absolute auditory distance, where the question is broadly how far is the sound? Tell us in meters. We used a virtual sound, not natural sound. And we have found that the auditory world of a blind person is actually quite compressed compared to a sighted individual. Blind people overestimate sounds that come from the close range and underestimate further sounds. So if you compare the range on the green arrow with the range on the purple arrow, you appreciate that there are a few meters of difference in range between the visually impaired and the sighted individuals. We also know the actual distances of those sounds are given by the black circles. So we can see that no one is particularly accurate at this task, sighted or visually impaired. But it is possible to estimate where we are most accurate of all distances. And quite interestingly, sighted individuals are quite accurate of estimating sound distance, sound sources that come from the close range, 1 meter, 1.5 meters. While visually impaired individuals are more accurate for further sounds, and the more visually impaired they are, the more accurate they are in the further field. So that someone who's blind, so with very severe visual impairment, would estimate correctly sound sources that are at 8-10 meters and be quite wrong for the nearer range. We've published this work and other in reputable outlets. Some of them got some traction online, higher altmetric scores. They were also cited on various Wikipedia pages and policy documents, which was very pleasing to see. Now, a slight change of topic, although not quite. Now, high reverberation is useful for echolocation, but at the same time, it has a detrimental effect on the environmental noise and by consequence to speech intelligibility and to mental comfort. So public spaces in particular tend to be treated acoustically. And one of the other pieces of work that I have done was part of a European consortium called, in a project called Echo to Echo, where we designed and built a novel sound absorber for public buildings like swimming pools and large lecture theaters like this one. This resulted in a US patent. And the relevance of this is that really public places will be acoustically treated. So that makes it so much harder for a visually impaired person to echolocate. Therefore, we need other things to enable their echolocation, such as a virtual environment where they can train their abilities, or a machine echolocation facility on the navigation aids. And here's the third case study around machine echolocation and autonomous acoustic navigation, which was the PhD research of Mario Bagnoli, who's here, and he tackled it like an inverse problem, solved the direct problem first, built this virtual environment which has 3D ecological sound, so that is sound with real properties, and then solved the inverse problem by means of an AI blind avatar that has adaptive strategies for different navigation goals and is able to orient itself and navigate within this virtual environment. A variety of navigation goals, such as following a sound source, circumnavigating obstacles, finding apertures, like in the examples above, navigating out of rooms. So really exciting work. Right. Now, I want to move on towards my next case study, and to notice that these examples that we had so far are actually very, very fortunate ones. They are examples of inverse problems where it is possible to solve the direct problem. Yeah, so the direct problem is deterministic or semi-deterministic, and we are able to put a formula to it. But that's not the case for many other inverse problems. Think, for example, of finding the cause of a disease that is fairly unknown. So our effect is the disease, and we are looking literally for causes in the broadest sense, risk factors, facilitators, and so on. Well, when the direct problem is poorly understood, then we do not have this pathway. And the immediate consequence of it is that the solution space for the inverse problem becomes much wider. So we have many more candidate solutions there, all of them affected by uncertainty and noise. And the second consequence of the direct problem not being solved or solvable or even understood is that we also do not have this additional information of what would be useful there to illuminate our path to a solution for the inverse problem. And the answer to this riddle is to actually put essentially some mirrors around the effect and project it onto those other spaces. For example, in the case of a disease, we would be looking at projecting on things like blood tests or some other physiological measurements, scans, lifestyle, demographics. All of those projections can inform us in some measure about that effect. And use these projections or features as additional information from the physics or the chemistry or the biology of the problem, and use the features to attempt to solve the inverse problem and find what is called a regularized solution. Okay, so with this schematic, I will move on to my last case study tonight, which is about AI models to predict eye diseases. And I will talk, well, the results are about age-related macular degeneration, but we are looking at other eye diseases as well. Eye diseases that are like AMD, leading causes of blindness, but whose mechanisms are not fully understood. And even if some of the biomedical mechanisms are known, we do not have the relationship between those mechanisms and the patient as a whole. So what we are doing in this project is to take a big data set, the UK Biobank, which contains data of 500,000 individuals, followed over 30 years. About 5,000 of these have been diagnosed with AMD at one point or another. And by aggregating multiple factors, let's call them risk factors, but not all of them are risk factors, as we'll see, in terms of demographics, socioeconomic status, lifestyle, diet, clinical measurements, and environment. And with this, what we have done was to build a prediction model of AMD occurrence or AMD occurrence over time, survival models, and risk stratifications. We have used explainable AI methods to look at feature importance and identify which risk factors are more prevalent. And yeah, the higher one is in the list, the more weight that risk factor has in the occurrence of AMD. The risk stratification, well, we have done it for a multitude of risk factors. Unsurprisingly, age is the main one, and the distribution of risk groups is as expected. Young people are much less likely to get AMD than older ones, and same for ever having eye surgery. If one had eye surgery, is at a hugely increased risk of AMD. Others are a bit more surprising, like, for example, the consumption of tea. Apparently, it quite helps if you don't drink tea at all. Individuals who don't drink tea at all or don't drink regularly have the lowest risk of getting AMD. We don't quite understand why that is, but that's what this data set is saying. So such an approach where we mine data that may have been collected for other purposes or for quite general purposes is in quite good alignment with what facilities the 15th Industrial Revolution offers us, and building towards what is called healthcare 5.0, which is a healthcare model that is patient-centric and resilient and sustainable. And the features that contribute to that are the use of explainable AI, of data twins like we have, and these are pathways to predictive and preventive and personalized healthcare, and can have a quite clear pathway of how they can be translated into community and patient benefit. Nonetheless, we have to acknowledge the challenges here. Such models are data hungry. They have very high dimensions. I didn't say, but in the UK Biobank, there are 500,000 subjects, but also there are 18,000 variables. So using all of those variables is not really feasible with only 500,000 data points. So coming back here, data hungry, high dimensional models, a level of instability in the solution. And ultimately, AI models are, like human learning, subject to the same limitations. Per speculum, in enigmata, ex parte. So indirect, in a riddle, and partial. So that is a paradigm that is very, very difficult to escape. And on the one hand, it highlights that machines are nowadays very good at mimicking and even emulating what we do. At the same time, that is also food for thought, and we can look forward and at questions such as how much of this we can trust, how can we check, and that's where explainable AI can play a role. I don't want to finish before highlighting the opportunities that lie ahead for using AI and big data. We see an ecosystem emerging aligned to the fifth industrial revolution, where humans work more and more alongside smart systems, advanced technologies like IoT devices, IoMT, Internet of Medical Things, and all driven by AI algorithms. Much of the industry, or the high-tech industries, is shifting their vision towards AI to become AI-centric. We see movement in the civic sector. There are many government initiatives and funding opportunities at regional, national, and international level to leverage the power of data and of AI to transform healthcare and work and jobs and society as a whole. With my new head that Laurie has mentioned, director of the Advanced Computing and Research Center, I'm very keen for us as a center to explore and exploit these opportunities and seek internal collaboration, but especially external partnerships in this space. And if you bear with me another 2 minutes, I have some thanks to give. First of all, I'd like to thank ARU and the Faculty of Science and Engineering for being a supportive and kind employer and a true investor in people. And I'm not saying this because senior managers are in the room, but rather in spite of that. But I think I don't say thank you enough. Then a big thank you to Shahina, who couldn't be here today. She's been a friend and a mentor for many years, and I'm hugely grateful to her for trusting and for believing in these ideas that we have worked on together. I'm very, very grateful to my managers, to Chris, to Mike, to Dara, who's at Nottingham now, to Ian and to Eamon, for their unwavering support and guidance and patience for many, many years. I'm grateful to my supervisor and my supervisors and my research students. I have learned a lot from all of them, and it's been such a joy to work together. as it has been to work with our external collaborators and with the ARU collaborators and friends, I'm not going to read all the names, and I've forgotten and missed many from this list, but I'm truly thankful to everyone. I wouldn't be here without the love and support of my family and my friends. I'm a special thought for my parents tonight. For their love, for their sacrifices, and for their infinite care. Also to my dear brother and my wonderful husband and son. They are truly my rock. And last but not least, I would like to thank my students. Some of them are here today. Thank you for their curiosity and for their fresh ideas and really for very useful feedback, a piece of which I'd like to share with you tonight. Thank you very much.
Silvia, thank you so much. A really inspiring and thought-provoking lecture. Thank you very much. Congratulations and thank you. You're giving thanks to lots of other people, but we're all very grateful to you for your lecture and everything you are doing at Anglo-Ruskin. Now, I hope we have some tricky questions. If you don't, I'm going to start by asking Silvia to explain what explainable AI is. I've never heard that phrase before. And please tell me there is something called inexplicable or unexplainable AI, because I hope there is.
Yes, well, when you run an AI model, you put in a bag all of these variables, all of these quantities, and what comes at the other end is a probability score, say a 0.7. Now, what weighs into that 0.7 probability of, for example, having A and D is given by these explainability scores, where you have like a weight for the individual variables that you've put in the bag, and the explainability scores will tell you how much each of them weigh in the outcome result. But it's not fail-safe. So all of these are statistical measures. So everything should be taken with a pinch of salt, because if you get more data, you might get slightly different weights for your variables. And there is a lot of unexplainable AI, especially in complex models, in deep learning, in transformers, where although there are explainability methods, for many of these where the accuracy and the performance metrics are quite all right, if you run the explainability metrics, you find that the actual model spends time and computational resources in places where a human would not even bother to look because it's irrelevant. So there is a lot of inexplainable AI out there as well.
Thank you very much. Now we have a microphone. If you would kindly, Chris is going to take off to make you run back to the back.
Silvia, thank you so much for your presentation tonight, and may I offer my personal congratulations to you on achieving a professorship, well deserved. Returning to your last case study where you're looking at disease, looking at cause and effect, kind of the question that I have around disease is a disease is not an on and off switch. We don't just have a disease and we don't just not have it. There's everything in between, and a grade of symptoms. Some people have things that have a disease that's really bad. Others manifest it in a much more or a much less severe way. So how are we going to use these AI models to pick out the different severity of a disease, so it becomes more obscure, or enigmata and ex parte, as it were. So how are we going to use AI models, which we have a new one every week, I would point out, to unpick the real complexity of a disease, which is everything in between, from nothing to full on?
This is an excellent question, and what I have shown here most likely will not be able to pick that because we don't have granular enough data. The idea is to have sufficient data that is systemic, so not just external risk factors or even genetic factors, but also look at fairly fine time points and compare symptoms and signals of all sorts. So that can be done possibly with a finer time series, and looking at severity in particular, possibly not just time points, but lots of samples of the same disease with severities that present themselves in real patients.
Also note your point around, a population or a study group of 500,000 is not enough.
Is not enough.
When there's so many variables.
Yeah, when there are so many variables, and when we are dealing, the diseases that are poorly understood, they are poorly understood because thankfully there aren't quite so many people who suffer from them. But if one is one of those people, of course we feel that that's quite a terrible thing to happen.
Silvia, congratulations and thank you for a really fascinating lecture. Continuing the healthcare theme, I was quite intrigued by your vision of a digital twin for personalised medicine, thinking of what you described as Society 5.0. And it would be great to hear a little bit more about that concept and perhaps just a little bit of prediction as to when we might see some of that intelligence being used in practice.
Yeah, that's an excellent question. So, what I would call the sort of models that we used in this study is data twin rather than digital twin, because it is a twin of numbers that are snapshots at points in time, and those points in time are quite rare for us to be able to fill the dots in between, like along what Chris's question was. However, there are other biochemical and biophysical models of organs already in existence, and they have been developed for maybe 10, 20 years already. So there are digital twins of the heart, for example, or of the circulatory system. And what would be very interesting, and possibly the next milestone in this journey, is to integrate the data twin with the digital twin that explain the biophysics and the biochemistry of the organ. That will be very interesting, because the data twin contains all of these additional parameters that are to do with the specific conditions of the patient, the socioeconomic status, the education, the region where they live, the pollution in that region, and so on, and all of those would have an impact in changing slightly the biophysical and the biochemical parameters of how their organs operate.
Congratulations, Silvia, for attaining perhaps the ultimate honor in academia.
Thank you.
My question is about all the four models that you presented. have you thought about applying it to toxicology, personalized medicine? We're talking, Chris mentioned about the disease manifestation in individuals. We also have the manifestation of therapeutic value of drugs in people. So the effect of drugs, toxicological effects, unwanted effect of drugs in individuals, that leads to personalized medicines. And it's very difficult to dig out the inverse problem of this.
Yeah.
And it can help the healthcare 5.0 in a very big way if AI can be applied to it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think this is possible if drug trials or actually drug use once a drug is approved is monitored at scale. So such a method would rely quite heavily on a large amount of data. To an extent, such studies on a much smaller scale are done during clinical trials. But to be able to evaluate all of this for minute detail, it would need much more data than is available in clinical trials, for example. So yes, I think there is potential for looking at how patients react to medicines in particular, but it requires a lot of data.
This is also a question about the last case study. So you presented a SHAP analysis where you had the weightings or contributions of the different variables, but that seems to imply an underlying assumption of independence of those variables. So to what degree can these models take into account, the fact that if you're overweight, you're likely to have high blood pressure and so on? So is there any kind of causal modeling that goes into these?
Well, not causal modeling, but we have done some weeding out of intercorrelated variables. And part of the planning and future work is to look at reduced models where we aggregate, we use principal components and other ways of reducing the dimensionality of the problem. But we wanted to actually look at the raw variables because some of those are known in the literature as risk factors, and we wanted to see, how far up they make it onto our list.
Thanks. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. And let's have one final question, please. Thank you very much.
Congratulations, Silvia. I'm really proud to be part of this audience here tonight. I would like to address a question concerning the future of your research, or especially in the view of regulations, which may be limiting in the sense of data pools we can access. And also your view on the speed of AI taking over or really helping in this particular aspect of health, especially, where we are all very interested.
Yeah. Well, very, very pertinent questions. And, I think data availability is one of the biggest barriers. The UK Biobank is available at a cost. There are, for example, some data sets related to eye diseases, actually imaging data sets. They are available at a cost as well, but there are lots of data sets that are not available. The NHS has a lot of data, and quite rightly, they guard the gates of access to that. So what we are trying to do is to partner with doctors in the NHS and make our research part of their work so that we can access data. I think there will be developments in this space, and I'm sure there will be a lot of societal debate as to how data held by the National Health Service can be used, what sort of safeguards should be, how much of it should be open for commercial exploitation, what sort of revenue should go to the NHS and so on. But that's a very, very wide discussion.
Silvia, thank you very much indeed. I'm sure you have further questions. I do hope you will please join us at the reception afterwards. All that remains for me is to invite Laurie to thank Silvia on behalf of his colleagues in the faculty. But for me, Silvia, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
So Silvia might come bearing gifts, and I'll explain the gifts in a moment or two. But just to reflect, just for a few moments on that talk. I mean, I think, you know, just such elegant research, just really, really elegant research. Describe that mathematical paradigm I asked earlier on, kind of to explain inverse problems. You did that really clearly, and I just think that's just such a wonderful paradigm. And I think what you also showed throughout your talk was just the evolution of your research as well. So the way in which it sort of starts with something that I can recognise from my own PhDs, those 3D renderings, those visual renderings, through to then the real complexity of some of those health and disease questions that you're now tackling using essentially the same paradigm, but as an evolved model. And I think what this illustrates more than anything else to me is just sort of the power of multidisciplinary research, and I think that really, the talk tonight really epitomises that approach. And I think the way in which we can address that at Anglia Ruskin University, which I think is a really sort of very special place to be, where there really are those boundaries between disciplines that you might sometimes see elsewhere. So I just thought that was really impressive. And then just the excitement at the end of kind of that approach and how you might start to take it into healthcare 5.0, into forensics and into other areas as well. I just think a really, really exciting end to the talk. But I think it wasn't sensationalist about the use of AI. I think that careful, considered approach, which I think really encapsulates your research generally, but the way in which you're going to be very careful using AI, I think is really sort of really important and really impressive. So, you know, you are enormously generous always in your thanks and appreciation of other people, as that slide demonstrates behind you. But I think, you know, on behalf of all of us, I just want to say an enormous thank you to you, Silvia. We are so pleased to see you achieve your chair, and this is my first gift, which is just a token of our appreciation. So,
thank you very much. Thank you.
Before I finish, so one of the things, that, of course, that I referenced and Silvia referenced as well is that Silvia is taking over as our first director of our new Computing Research Centre, Advanced Computing Research Centre. So actually, when we thought about this, how do you actually really end a presentation like this? Well, you ask Copilot to effectively summarise someone's career as a sonnet, right? Okay, and so that's what Copilot was asked. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to read out Copilot's view on your career so far, which I should say is very positive. But I'm going to read it out. It is a short sonnet. So in Cambridge's halls, her brilliance does reside. Professor Cirstea, with a mind so keen, in modelling an AI, she's our guide. Her work in health and tech, a bridge unseen. With echoes clear, she aids the sightless way. Through sound and smart tech, vision she restores. In digital health, her research holds sway. Assisting lives, her impact ever soars. From neural nets to signals finely tuned, her algorithms shape the future's frame. In simulations vast, her skills are hewn. Her legacy in science earns acclaim. A scholar's quest in data's vast expanse, Silvia's brilliance leads the forward dance. So there we go. So Silvia, on behalf of So congratulations. So thank you, Silvia. Thank you to all of you. As Roderick's already said, it'd be great if you could stay around to enjoy a drink with Silvia and guests. But thank you again for coming tonight, and we hope to see you again. In fact, we hope to see you again next week, next Wednesday, for the next one of our inaugural lectures. But thank you all very much, and do have a safe journey home when you leave.